Welcome to Wildlife Outdoors with your host, Russell and Jose. If you have a passion for conservation of the outdoors, or you're enjoying a calming hike in the mountains, an exhilarating kayak trip on the river, feeling a fish on the end of your line, cooking on an open flame in a primitive campsite, or stalking big game, just waiting for the perfect shot, you're in the right place. So put on your boots and polarized sunglasses and come along for the ride.
Welcome back to another episode of Wildlife Outdoors. I apologize that it's been so long, but Happy New Year. This is going to be the first episode of 2025. We've been kind of inconsistent. But yeah, we're the first episode of 2025, and it's going to be a fun one today. We're going to kind of change it up a little bit this year. We're going to try to throw some different things in the mix. But I figured we'd kind of give a short, synopsis of what 2024 was about for us, and maybe what we're going to do a little bit different in 25. And so in 2024, man, what all changed with you?
Oh, dude, where do I start, man? When it comes to outdoor related stuff, honestly, 2024 was probably maybe one of my more uneventful years. But in terms of life changes, dude, it was very different. Starting 2025, very different than I started 2024. New place, new occupation. It's been quite the journey to say the least, but man, looking back, I think I've learned a lot about myself in the process. I think I've learned a lot about what I want, and man, it's just a big year for me. I think a challenging year for sure. A lot of family stuff going on, personal stuff going on. It was quite hectic. But despite all that, I think it's also been a year of opportunity. I've had some pretty cool opportunities pop up, specifically going to South Carolina and doing some stuff over there. New place I've never been to, met some people I've never met, and made some friends, and made some memories, man. And it's been great. And that's kind of going into 2025, something I want to keep doing. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine maybe a week or so ago about New Year's resolutions. It's always the same thing, lose weight, get better health, and all that stuff, and which is true. But specifically, I want to try and make more memories. I think, in years past, I just haven't had or taken the opportunity to kind of pursue some of the things I wanted to, and now I'm in a place where I have a little bit more time to do that, and so I want to make it happen. And also just where I'm at, dude, there's a bunch of there's quite a few state parks near me, and Big Bend. I'm probably the closest I've ever been to Big Bend. So I think I'm going to try, and this might be the year that I finally get to go, because I've never been. I've been wanting to do it. So do that, and yeah, man, I just want to spend more time outdoors, dude. 2024, I didn't really do a lot of that, so 2025, I really, really want to, and looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to see what this year has for me personally, but also for the podcast, because I think you got some pretty cool things to share about that. And yeah, dude, it's been 24 was a doozy, but looking forward to 25. What about you?
Man, I agree with that. 2024 was definitely, in terms of my personal life, probably one of my more challenging years. And I had the same job and live in the same place, so a lot of that didn't change. Relationship status changed. I got custody of my daughter, so that changed, and that's a big thing that changed a lot of things. But it's been a great year. It's been a challenging year. I've been humbled in 2024 in numerous ways, and it was a tough year, but definitely a really good year. And I'm looking forward to what 2025 has. And I didn't really make resolutions this year. I normally don't, because I try to avoid the disappointment of when I don't reach them. But
that's fair.
This year, I'm gonna say that I want to try to travel more. Like last year, I traveled a lot, but it was all local, and so I did a lot of local travel within the state of Arkansas and down to Texas. Didn't take my trip to Louisiana like I wanted to. And then I traveled some for work, Oklahoma, Mississippi, and stuff. But I want to do more traveling abroad, maybe a little bit further out this year. I want to make that a goal of 25 is to get out a little more than, maybe 500 miles or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing that I want to do more in 2025. And now my daughter is getting the age where she can go and do a lot more things, and so she turns 7 probably a couple weeks after this episode comes out, and yeah, I'm just excited to take her places and show her experiences and stuff like that, and she'll be my little travel buddy. So I'm excited for that, everything that's coming in 2025 in terms of that. So, but yeah, in
Heck yeah,
2024,
dude.
it was a pretty good year for the podcast. I mean, it was year 2 for us, and it we reached more people than I thought we were going to, because we just do this kind of just to, shoot the breeze. And, we don't really have, I guess, big expectations for it. At least I don't, we just kind of get on here, shoot the breeze, and talk with some cool people. And I was looking through some of the statistics of 24, and we reached like 27 countries or something like that we were listened to. And I was amazed by that in its own. I was like, holy crap, like people in other countries in general listen to us, and then to find out it was 27 of them, like, thought that was pretty cool. So I want to give a shout out to those that have listened in other countries. I got a list of all the countries that have listened. So real quick, just want to give a shout out to, of course, the US, majority of our listeners, but Panama, Australia, Canada, Sweden, Germany, Austria, India, Thailand, uh, Colombia, Albania, China, Russia, Poland, Mexico, France, England, Latvia, Spain, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Ireland, Scotland, Malaysia, Indonesia, the UK, and Honduras. So any of y'all that have listened to us from those countries, like, we greatly appreciate it. I think it's amazing that
Yeah.
y'all are listening to us, and we'd love for y'all to reach out on the website or Facebook, Instagram, and let us know where you're from. We would love that.
Yeah, I mean, like Russell said, thank you so much, because I'm just like he said, I didn't really have any expectations, I guess, for this podcast. Truthfully, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I envisioned us sitting here 2 years after the fact, still going at it. But
yeah,
man, to think that we've reached that far abroad is pretty incredible. So thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, hear stories. Yeah, just thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all. And then another kind of news thing that I think is pretty interesting that I would have never thought we would hear, but on Spotify, they have the end of the year, the Wrapped 2024. It turns out that our video podcast on Spotify was in the top 15% of all video podcasts on Spotify, which I don't know how many video podcasts there are on Spotify, but to be in the top 15% is crazy to me. So for those of y'all that are actually watching the videos on Spotify, thank y'all for the support, because
we salute you. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is insane to think, I would have thought we would have been like maybe the top 90%, but to find out we're in the top 15, like, that's crazy. So thank all of y'all that are listening and watching the video on Spotify. We really appreciate that as well.
Man, that's pretty wild, dude.
Right. It is insane. Makes me excited to see what happens in 2025, though.
Oh, I know.
I feel like with these changes that we're going to be making, which we talked a little bit prior to recording on, that should make it a little bit more interesting, and also make it a little bit easier for us to communicate with others and have a friendly competition with each other, which could be a little more entertaining. So now I'd like to kick it to today's sponsor, Foretold Coffee Company. Elevate your outdoor adventures with Foretold Coffee's premium single origin coffees, meticulously roasted to satisfy both specialty coffee professionals and nature enthusiasts alike. Founded by former airborne cavalry scout Joshua Sandoval, his mission is to bring the mountains home with every cup. Experience their 3 flavors, Peruvian cocoa, El Salvadoran bourbon, and Mexican honey, which is my favorite. So check them out at foretoldcoffeeco.com. But we're going to start this episode with some more science stuff. So some of our episodes that have performed the best have had kind of more of a science backing on them and been more informative. So going into 2025, I'd like to talk about some species of fish that were recognized and reclassified or newly classified in 2024 as new species. So I have a few of those I'd like to talk about. So before we get going on that, you have anything else you want to talk about, Jose?
I guess to just kind of reiterate about what to expect for 25. I know 2024, especially in the latter part of it, we were a bit inconsistent just because of holidays and everything going on. And we're going to try and be better going forward. But given how busy, Russell is, how things may kind of just vary with me, we may, we may miss a week or two, but we're gonna try and do our best to be a bit more consistent going into this coming year. But yeah, man, I guess that's it, really. So let's hear this sciencey stuff you got cooking for us.
A little bit of sciencey stuff, and I'm going to preface this with I am not a biologist by any means, and a lot of these pronunciations may be botched, so be ready for that. But there are, in particular, 5 species that were classified into their own species or reclassified in 2024. So the first one that I have on the list is called the Chromis abada, and it's in the Maldives. It is a coral reef fish, and it stays around about 300 foot depth-wise. It has a pearly white body. It's kind of silver and blue, has undertones of blue in it, and then it has a big black dot on its anal fin. And so it lives among the other chromises that live in the coral reef, but is different. And I guess when they were down there exploring and doing research, they noticed that the coloration and the morphology of this fish was a little different than others. So they started looking into it and doing research on it and found out that it actually is a different species. And so the name, the Chromis abada, so abada means perpetual in the local language in the Maldives. I'm not sure what the language is, but perpetual is a nod at Rolex, surprisingly enough, because Rolex is one of the ones that financed the research for that.
Really?
So yeah, Rolex Perpetual Planet Initiative was the main funding for the research there.
Dude, that's crazy.
They decided to take a nod at them, and since it was called the Perpetual Planet Initiative, they made the actual species name perpetual in the local lingo. So Chromis abada is the name of that one.
Well, if I can ever afford a watch like that, I'll just buy it. Hopefully my money will go towards conservation.
Right? Yeah, I didn't even know that Rolex was doing anything.
That's insane. We were talking about the same Rolex, like the watch company Rolex?
Yep.
Holy smokes. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too.
And then, respect Rolex, I see you, dude.
Right. And so I want to look more into that and see, what else they have their hands in, because, when I think Rolex, I just think watch. I don't think about them having any other types of initiatives and helping out, especially with conservation of all things, So
it also kind of makes you wonder what other companies that are like really popular have these kinds of things going on in the background that the general public just have no idea about.
Right. That's something we should look into. I feel like that would be a good thing to showcase.
I think it would be too. Highlight some companies, but also just, I guess, raise awareness, because I had no idea. Hats off to you, Rolex. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So, but that was the first one. The next species I have is the roughback bristle shark, and it is the Dichythis satoi, maybe. And it is a species of shark that there are other sharks that they assumed were the same thing. This one is slightly different because it has something called denticles, not tentacles like an octopus, but denticles, and essentially it is growths on the skin at a smaller level that makes it very rough, that it's almost like teeth, actually. So the whole body is covered in denticles. It has a unique eye shape. The dorsal fins are different. The reproductive morphology is different, and the egg shape is different. The egg is actually shaped almost like a banana rather than, a rectangle with little points on the ends like a typical shark egg. These are almost shaped like a banana. These sharks are about 3 foot in length, grayish brown with white-edged fins, and they mainly eat fish and octopus. But they were so there's 5 species of sharks that are related that were previously under the Paramateris, and they were in the Pentachidae family. And after they found this shark here, the roughback bristle shark, it actually caused a brand new shark family called the Dichythidae family, which is a brand new family that actually has 5 other species in it, and it took them out from a completely different genus that they were under before. So new family and everything. So I thought that was pretty cool. And these are located on the western coast of New Zealand's North Island, and they stay pretty deep, between 2,100 and 3,800 feet.
What was the name of the shark again?
Roughback bristle shark.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Say that 5 times fast.
Right. I'd like to see anybody say the scientific name twice fast.
Man.
Yeah, pretty interesting shark. And Kind of similar to that, there's another shark that was actually also recognized as its own species in 2024 as well, and it is called the shovelbill shark. And it is very similar to that of the bonnethead shark, which we have in Texas and along that whole Gulf Coast area. And then in the Western Atlantic, kind of on the northern end of South America, everybody I guess was assuming that they were still bonnethead sharks, but they realized that they're actually different because they have different tooth and precaudal vertebrae counts. They look very similar though, but it is the shovelbill shark, and it is called the Sphaerna alleni, and that is named in honor of Dr. Gerald Allen, and he was a renowned ichthyologist. So the West Atlantic coast from Belize to Brazil is where these are located. They're smaller and more streamlined compared to to the hammerhead that they're related to. Very similar to the bonnethead, and have those slight differences that the precaudal vertebrae and different tooth counts. So that is another one that it didn't really have much changes in terms of anything scientifically, but just a new species that they thought was a bonnethead the whole time. So
That's pretty cool.
have you ever caught a bonnethead?
Yes, I have.
Really?
It's been years. Probably, man, I would say probably 2012.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been a good while.
Yeah, some friends and I, we were decided to go fishing one night at over in Corpus, and if I'm not mistaken, I had just bought like a little ultralight. I was going to gift it to my girlfriend at the time, and man, I think if I remember correctly, it was like a Shimano, like maybe 2,500 or 1,000 size reel. I think I had 6-pound monofilament in a light action rod. So it was like light
Mhm.
tackle. And the reason being, like at that time, I really started enjoying light tackle fishing. There was some ponds, some local ponds in Kyle, my hometown. And whenever I'd go back home, Russell and I would always meet up and we'd bring like the lightest rods we could. And because for whatever reason, like the small stuff just worked better than your conventional like bass gear.
Yeah.
And so we just started, I guess, like I wouldn't call it macro fishing, just ultralight fishing, I guess.
Yeah.
More often. And so I was really kind of into that freshwater at the time anyway. And so I just brought it out just to kind of test it and figuring, I'd catch like croaker or hardhead because those things are rampant everywhere, like along the coast there.
Yeah.
And we're at this pier, Bob Hall Pier, which I don't think exists anymore, if I'm not mistaken. And dude, I hooked this thing, and then it started just peeling drag. I was like, what the hell? I started reeling it in, and I pulled it up, and it was a low bonnethead, man. It's the first one I ever caught in my life. It was a lot of fun on light tackle, but it was kind of crazy, man. It looked like that's probably the only shark I caught that I know of anyway. And they're pretty cool little critters, dude. I hear they taste good. I don't know. I've never tried it myself.
I've had shark before. I'm not sure what species of shark it was, but it was grilled with lemon pepper and lemon juice on it. It was so good. I don't know what kind of shark it was, but I've actually never caught a shark. I've had a shark almost catch me, but I've never caught a shark myself.
Was that in 2024 also?
That was. It was. Wait, was it? I think it was. I think it was like January, February, maybe March.
I think it was pretty early, right?
Yeah. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was March because it was playoffs for semi-pro, and so that would have been.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, that was early 2024 that I got chased by that shark.
So in Texas, let me see. This is per TPWD website. Valid September 1, 2024 through August 31st, 2025. Daily bag limit is 1 for bonnetheads.
Yeah, I've seen bonnetheads caught. I've seen black tips caught. I've seen tiger sharks and bull sharks caught. Out off Port Aransas and stuff.
Dude,
like
did you ever hear that story off of man? This was years ago. Bob Hall Pier, that same pier, some dude caught like a
15-foot or whatever tiger shark.
Yeah, dude. Like I don't think it was. I think it was like 13, some change, like pushing 14, but massive,
still
huge, dude. Crazy. I think there was a video floating around. I don't know if it's still up on YouTube of them like releasing it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was that shark specifically or if it was a different one, but that thing was massive.
Yeah,
Massive.
freaking nuts. And it's crazy because I always wondered why the guys would have, the racks on the back of their trucks, and they would, pull up close to the water, dig down the backs of their trucks, and just sitting in their trucks, relaxing with this big rack on top. I was wondering, I was like I'd rather have my feet in the water, be down in the sand. But come to find out, those are, the typical shark fishermen that'll go out there and have these big old rods. And I've heard that they kayak out like 20-pound balls of meat, and they'll kayak it out half mile and drop it, and that's where they're out there trying to catch them at. And I was like, that's insane. Looks like a whole process that would be fun, but I've never done it before.
If I remember correctly, I think I may have read somewhere that on that big tiger shark they used like a 19-pound Jack Crevalle or something like that. That's a big bait, but it's a big fish, dude. I mean, dude, I can't even imagine what it would feel like to have something like that on the other end of the line.
Right. Dude, I want to go fish from Mako on a fly rod.
That'd be sick.
On like a 14 weight fly rod out there chasing Mako, freaking watching them breach. It would be insane.
Yeah, dude. It's insane how acrobatic those sharks are. I saw a video on YouTube. Dude, this thing went airborne, I don't even know, maybe like 6-7 times. I mean, clearing like 30 feet in the air. Just it was insane. It was wild.
That's nuts. Those and spinner sharks, dude. Spinner sharks.
Oh yeah. Spinner sharks are pretty cool.
That'd be a pretty fun one to catch.
That would be.
Yeah. No, I've never caught a shark, unfortunately. Maybe that's something that'll be like a resolution for 2025. Take my butt to the coast and catch a shark.
I do want to go to the coast more often, man. I haven't been to the coast probably in 2 years, 3 years.
It's been that long?
For me, yeah.
Dude, that's insane. I was there a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, last time I went was with Marco and Pete, his buddy Pete.
Mm-hmm.
They got an Airbnb down there, and I met them down. Or I rode with Marco over there. I took my truck. No, I took my truck because I think I had to go to Kingsville. I did take my truck because I had to go to Kingsville for something. I can't remember what.
Didn't you have to go to Kingsville recently and meet with your former advisor? Or was that a couple years ago?
That was that long ago. Yeah.
Dang.
Because he was still in Kingsville before he moved to College Station.
I see.
Yeah, so I had to go visit them I cannot remember why I was there. No idea. But yeah, so I only got to fish for that one day, pretty much.
Yeah.
And caught one redfish. Might have been my biggest redfish in the fly so far. I didn't get a measurement on it. On a little there's a fly called the Convict Killer. It was designed for sheepshead. Mm-hmm. I made a modified version of that, and that's what I caught it on. But that was the last time I went to the coast.
Dang. Yeah, this last time I went, I caught some sand trout and some specks, but that's all I caught on the fly. And then I was out there with my nephews, and they were using conventional gear and spinning gear, and they were catching a bunch of hardheads, gaff tops. My nephew caught a flounder, pretty good sized flounder. They caught some croakers. My youngest nephew caught a kingfish, a juvenile kingfish. Yeah, it was pretty good. We went out there 2 nights to the pier, and it was pretty fun. But all I caught on the fly the whole time was sand trout and speckled trout. But I did go out to the jetty and go down to the beach, but it was like 30-mile-per-hour winds. And I finally stopped by the fly trap and hung out with fowlers. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
But dude, it was like super windy. So yeah, beach fishing just wasn't it.
Dude, I haven't been able to go down and check out the new location yet. Hoping to this year.
Dude, it's so nice.
That's what I've heard, man. Marco was like, he was like, dude, it's pretty legit, but I just haven't been able to make it down.
You gotta make it happen, man.
Dude, I want to, bro. There's so many things I want to do.
Same. I feel that.
Either no time or no money or both.
Right. Yeah. Typically both is what it's been for me.
Shoot, dude. Yeah. Struggleville, bro.
Dude, you ain't lying. But alrighty, well, let's get back to this list. So the next one that I have on this list is called the Grumpy Dwarf Goby, or the Sueviota aethon. It is a species of dwarf goby, and aethon is derived from the Greek word for burning or blazing, which reflects the vibrant, like red-orange coloration of this fish. So it has a grumpy-looking face, hence its name, and has this weird little frown. It's, fairly small, and it lives, 20 to 50 feet down, and it has this real, cryptic nature, and they've most likely come across it numerous times while doing research in the coral reef, but it blends in so well due to its colors and it's pretty small. So, yeah, it was just hard for them to find, I guess. And then after they'd found enough of them, they're like, hey, maybe that's, different than others, and started researching it and found out that it is definitely a different fish, but it's a real cool looking fiery red color. And the head and body has iridescent blue spots on it. And then also on the fins has blue spots. So it's a pretty cool looking feller. And I didn't think about saying this before, but I'll probably find pictures of all these species and put them up on the screen. So if you guys are watching, I might have a little picture in the corner of all these fish. So, but yeah, it's a derpy looking little fish.
Who names these things, man?
Right. And where do they come up with them?
Dude, if you discovered well, I guess it would depend on like what it is you discovered, right? But what would you think you'd name it?
Ooh, I mean, with me being the way that I am and real methodical and everything, it's hard to say now. It would most likely be something related to the color of it, the size of it, the geographic location it was found, and maybe something along the lines of my name. But yeah, dude, that's a tough question to answer.
It's kind of funny, man. It kind of like you, it just really depends. That's why I said it probably depend on like what you caught and where you caught all that stuff. But yeah, it would just really depend, dude. But it's kind of funny because I don't really know how the scientific naming of things works. Like I know a lot of, for example, for plants, a lot of the stuff comes from like famous botanists and things like that who probably described them at first. Mm-hmm. So if that were the case, you could probably just sneak in your name somewhere into like a scientific name and then be creative as hell with a common name, right. Like Derpy Goby or something. I don't know too, but man, it'd be freaking awesome to be able to name something after yourself,
dude. It would. So like, there's I think 3 on this list are named after somebody.
I think I was listening to a podcast. They were talking to this biologist, and I think the biologist had named a few different animals, maybe like 2 or 3. I want to say they named them after Taylor, or named one after Taylor Swift, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? Interesting.
I think.
If I were to name something after a celebrity, she would probably be the lowest one on the list that I would pick, but
a millipede was named after Taylor Swift.
Really?
Nanaria Swiftae.
So what is with the AE? Is that like a Latin thing, or because I've noticed it's like that in a lot of these scientific names. But
yeah, or like a lot of them end in I, like Lindheimeri or something like that. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I would imagine it has something to do with Latin, probably.
I see.
Or well, I guess that would be Latin related, but I guess like a meaning associated with that animal.
Mm-hmm.
You know how like I guess the name might describe some kind of characteristic about it, color or whatever. So maybe something like that, but I really don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, this one here, the next one actually is called the tail spot wrasse, and it's funny because the second word of the scientific name is Sanchezi, which is Sanchez, the marine biologist who contributed to studying reef fish. His last name ending in an I. So, yeah, I guess that's it. It is the tail spot wrasse, Halochores sanchezi. It's a newly discovered wrasse named in honor of Dr. Felipe Sanchez, and he was a marine biologist whose work contributed significantly to the study of reef fish diversity. And so this fish is found in coral reefs in the tropical, like eastern Pacific area, normally between 30 and 100 feet deep, and it loves rocky reefs with a mix of sand. Distinct markings on the fins and body make it distinguishable from related species. And this fish is about 4 to 6 inches. And the discovery required like detailed morphological analysis and genetic studies to even confirm that it's distinct and different from closely related species. So this one had a lot of work to be done to make it its own species. but it did become its own species in 2024 as well. And these fish are gorgeous little fish. And I think there's other species of wrasse that you can, buy to have in saltwater fish tanks and stuff. They're real colorful reef fish. But yeah, this one is the tail spot wrasse.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Have you ever had a fish tank?
It's been years, bro.
I've always wanted a saltwater fish tank. I used to, breed the African cichlids and stuff. And so I did have colorful fish, but they're freshwater fish. But I've always wanted, to have like a big reef tank with, live coral in it and stuff like that. I feel like it'd be awesome.
I feel like I have too many hobbies already.
I used to have too many hobbies.
I can't say that because I keep adopting on like this whole leather thing, and then finally ordered an arrow building kit. So just waiting to buy my shafts and stuff. So I can't say I have too many hobbies because I keep getting like trying them, I guess.
Yeah.
So man, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised if someday I just get a wild hair on my butt and be like, I'm gonna make a native freshwater tank or something like that.
That would be cool. That's something I always wanted to do. I did at one point have largemouth bass and channel catfish and bluegill. And I'm not sure if that's legal or not, but
yeah, that's one of the things that stopped me. I was like, I don't know what the legalities are about, keeping some freshwater fish.
Yeah. I know channel catfish you can buy at like pet stores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those are fine. In terms of game fish, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen like popular YouTubers have, pet, quote unquote, pet bass and stuff like that. So I don't know if they just have to be within like the legal limit, as outlined by, the state park or sorry, the game and fish for that state or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no idea, man. No idea. So that's a whole wormhole I really don't want to get into right now.
Dude, we'd spend like 2 hours talking about that, researching.
Well, dude, yeah. I mean, just like, because it would be really cool to have like a tank with like Rio Grande cichlids or something like that in there.
Right.
It'd be awesome. But yeah, I just don't know. Again, with the legalities of all that stuff is, I just don't want to deal with that. I'd rather just catch them and let them go.
Well, you could always go and get like a Jack Dempsey cichlid, which is very similar to a Rio Grande cichlid. It's probably the closest related cichlid, South American cichlid there is to the Rio. And you can get those from PetSmart, Petco.
Dude, didn't you get like in an online battle with some fish?
Dude, I did actually. Yeah, I did with So ironically enough, you're talking about famous YouTubers that have fish. So I didn't get in an argument with the poster. So Zach Ketchumall was the one that posted the video originally. And it was kind of one of those things where he's just joking and so many people took it literally. And so he had I want to say it was a parrot cichlid and a Florida gar in the same tank. And he said jokingly that they were the mom and the dad. And then he had a fire gar or some type of orange gar in a different tank that he said was the offspring of those two fish. And so many people were saying, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know those fish could, even, cohabitate and this and that. And me just being who I am, I was like, those two fish really can't breed. Well, then some guy like went on there and started arguing with me, and I think it has like over 3,000 likes on my original comment now. Because dude, me and him went back and forth, and those two fish are so far separated. That would be the same thing as saying a human could have offspring with like an aardvark or something. Like literally, humans and any mammal that is as close related as the cichlid and that gar are. I think it's all the way back to like the class or maybe even the order. Like it's far back. So yeah, they cannot intermingle and or breed. And yeah, there was like 5 or 6 comments back and forth between him and I. And then a bunch of other people started jumping in and saying, yeah, no, it can't happen. And then after a couple of days, he deleted all his comments. So now it just looks like I'm talking to myself in that comment thread. But yeah, it was pretty interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool if you could. I mean, I think it'd be cool to mix a gar and a cichlid. But even if you were to do that, you wouldn't end up with, a gar that's orange. So
that's wild.
But yeah, it was pretty interesting for sure. But speaking of interspecies, that kind of brings us to the next one on the list. It was not reclassified in 2024, but there was actually a series that came out in 2024. It's a 5-part series by the Ozark podcast on the Neosho bass. And so just kind of wanted to do my due diligence and talk about that. Kind of related to some of these other ones being discovered. This fish had already been described in the past and then had gone from being, a subspecies underneath the northern smallmouth, and then now it's its own species. And there's a lot of conservation efforts going into it, into keeping this species around. So I just thought I would give some details on it a little bit. If you guys want to know, you definitely should go check out that 5-part series from the Ozark podcast. I mean, they go into depth with, scientists that have actually been doing the, genetic studies on them and stuff like that. So, but the Neosho bass itself, it is actually, for the longest time was thought to be a subspecies of smallmouth bass when that's actually not the case. So, the northern smallmouth is the Micropterus dolomieu, and the Neosho bass is Micropterus velox, formerly Micropterus dolomieu velox, but now it's just Micropterus velox. And so it's in the Ozark region, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas area, in the Illinois River watershed. And so it's known for its unique ecological adaptations to small, clear streams with rocky substrates. It likes to eat a lot of crawfish. It was originally considered a subspecies of the smallmouth. Recent genetic and morphological studies have led to its recognition as a distinct species. This reclassification highlights the importance of ongoing research into fish biodiversity and taxonomy. So, DNA analysis revealed distinct genetic markers differentiating it from regular black bass species. Morphological distinctions, unique physical characteristics such as coloration, scale patterns, body proportions. It has different behavioral traits and stuff. So it spawns and it has habitat preferences that are different from other black bass species. It thrives in cool, clear streams with moderate to fast currents, and it prefers a gravel or rocky bottom. Currently, it's at risk of genetic dilution through hybridization with the northern smallmouth bass, and the smaller streams that it lives in is also threatened by pollution, sedimentation, and water diversion. So there's a lot of things going on with this species, and we believe that it needs to be saved and have more work going into conservation of it. And there's actually a petition out there that is being headed by the Ozark podcast, and they're actually trying to make it the state fish of Oklahoma, very similarly to what happened in Texas with the Guadalupe bass, and just trying to get more recognition for this fish. So I will put the link to the petition in the description, and y'all can check that out.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, dude, I want to go target them specifically, and then very similar to the Neosho smallmouth bass or Neosho bass. There's two other subspecies of smallmouth bass that I'm kind of hoping get reclassified as their own species, but they've been described as the Little River bass and the Washita bass, which are both a little bit closer to me than the Ozarks. So I'm kind of more in the region to go fish for those, and I kind of want to start doing my own independent research to try to see if I can, see the differences, find the differences, and find out where they're actually, where their ranges are. And maybe I can get a hold of the scientists and help out with that research. I feel like that would be a good thing to do. But yeah, it's crazy to think about all of the differences that aren't visual differences, but of just them being their own species, and we could potentially make it go extinct just by, not knowing. And so people are putting a lot of work, a lot of research in to find out more about these Neosho bass, and I just think it's amazing that they're trying to do something about it.
Didn't you say that Rob McConnell had an article or something,
yes,
kind of talking about it a little bit?
Yeah, he did. I believe it was in Hatch magazine, and I come across that by accident. I didn't know that he had written the article, and I was just trying to do a little bit of research and get some details on the fish before I talked about it on this episode, and didn't read the author or the title. I just started reading the information. Then I was scrolling down and saw some of the pictures, and then it said by Rob McConnell. I was like, oh crap. I was like, they got a picture of Rob. And then kept reading, and I go to the next picture. It said by Rob McConnell. And I was like, wait a second. Scroll to the top, and I saw that the author was Rob McConnell, which I thought was pretty interesting because we've had him on.
That's pretty cool. I'm trying to find it right now, but maybe if we find the link to that, we can post it. But
yeah, I'll definitely put it in the description. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
I'm on there right now. I can't.
Yep. It's titled Southern Smallies, the genetically unique smallmouth bass in Oklahoma by Rob McConnell. It was published January 9th, 2023. I will put the link to the article in the description.
Pretty cool stuff, man.
It is for sure.
The Neosho bass, dude.
So for this specifically, it says the scientific basis for reclassification. is genetic evidence. So DNA analysis revealed distinct genetic markers differentiating the Micropterus velox from related bass species. Morphological distinctions, unique physical characters such as coloration, scale patterns, and body proportions. Behavioral traits, distinct spawning and habitat preferences compared to other black bass species. So, the creek specialist essentially. Habitat and range. So it thrives in cool, clear streams with moderate to fast currents, prefers habitats with gravel or rocky bottoms. Its range is limited, making it susceptible to habitat disturbances and environmental changes. Conservation implications. So loss of habitat threatened by pollution, sedimentation, and water diversion in its native streams, and hybridization. So the risk of genetic dilution through hybridization with introduced northern smallmouth bass, Micropterus dolly. So
kind of reminds me of the Guadalupe bass, the smallmouth bass ordeal.
Yep, very similar. So I think that the ecological, it is very important for not only scientists but those that recreate outside pay attention to stuff like that, because there's plenty of things that can be done. If I'm not mistaken, I think they talked about it on the Ozark podcast, saying that there are things that they can do in terms of regulations on, which fish you can keep, which fish you can't. So very rarely does a Neosho bass get above 14 inches. So if you're catching a 14-inch smallmouth bass, most likely it is going to either be a hybrid and or a northern smallmouth bass. It won't be a Neosho bass. So I think they're actually thinking about, or they may have already done it, lowering the size restriction, because before I think it was 16 inches or above, but I think they lowered it to 14 in order to help the populations of the Neosho, because if it's a 14-inch smallmouth and or Neosho, it's most likely going to be a smallmouth or a hybrid, because the Neosho very rarely get that old. So there's stuff like that I've heard people complaining, oh, well, they're going to lower, the size restrictions for the smallmouth, and it's going to make it to where we don't have as many big smallmouth in the lakes, which I can see, but the northern smallmouths are stocked and the Neosho is native. I feel like, the native should take precedence over the introduced species.
I'd agree with that.
So, but yeah, man, the Neosho bass is an amazing little fish. I don't know if I've caught one. I don't have pictures of all the fish that I've caught within that region. But yeah, I'm hoping someday that I can actually go and target them and catch a Neosho specifically targeting one. So
that'd be pretty awesome.
Yes, sir. But yeah, man. So that's kind of a lot of stuff that's happened in terms of reclassifications in 2024.
Nice, dude. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. And I like that. It's pretty neat that we're now learning about this, so we can start actively, conserving these species.
Mm-hmm.
I think it speaks volumes for, I guess, science and its influence on conservation, and I think we should be a bit more mindful about that going forward.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So do you know much about, with the Guadalupe bass and how a lot of that transpired and stuff? Because at first people thought it was a spotted bass or something, didn't they? They thought it was a subspecies of spotted. And
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know off the top of my head. I might be mistaken, so please double check me, anyone who's listening. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe that way back when, I can't remember when, they introduced smallmouth bass as essentially as another species to kind of pursue. But they didn't know the ecological implications the introduction of that species would have. And since smallmouth bass and Guadalupe bass habitat requirements are really similar, and generally speaking, smallmouth bass get much larger than guads, they just started kind of out competing. And they can also interbreed. So they're losing genetically pure Guadalupe bass, and there were these some hybrids swimming around, and they were just getting out competed by the species, if I can recall correctly. And so it wasn't until years after the fact that they recognized, oh man, we have a legitimate problem. The Guadalupe bass population is dwindling. So now they are raising fish at hatcheries, and they're doing a bunch of fish releases and stuff of genetically pure Guadalupe bass in order to try and I guess fix. Well, not, how can I explain it? They're doing as much as they can to try and reverse the problems created by the initial introduction of those smallmouth bass. So it's an interesting conservation story that's still ongoing because this is still a battle that they're having. But I mean, it's that program that they've implemented to try and help out the Guadalupe bass has been quite successful thus far. And I mean, the Llano River, like near where I'm at, dude, so many Guadalupe bass. I think I've caught more guads than I have largemouth there, and it's pretty cool to see those fish. And man, I love Guadalupe bass. For one,
they're so fun.
They are really really fun. They are really fun. They are really really pretty. They fight hard, and dude, they're just such a cool little fish. I think I really really enjoy catching Guadalupe bass.
Same.
One of my favorites.
We caught a bunch of them over on the Lower Colorado last time we floated it, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we caught a bunch, dude. And man, a couple of summers back, Danny, which we haven't had on the podcast yet. Hopefully, we can get him on soon.
Gotta get him on this year.
Yeah, we got it was Danny, Marco, myself, and I don't remember if it was just us three or if there was someone else. But we did a float, like a 6 or 8 mile float on the South Llano River. And dude, I'm not even kidding. We probably caught over 200 fish between the three of us or whatever out there that day. And most of the bass that were caught were quads.
That's insane.
It was insane, dude. I mean, they weren't like, we didn't catch anything huge, but it was just, I mean, like, just nonstop. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think any of us caught a really good sized fish that one day that we all floated the Lower Colorado. Because that was Marco. It was me, you, Marco, Danny, and one of Danny's friends, wasn't it?
It was me, you, Marco, Danny, and I think there were some of Marco's buddies.
I see.
Marco's and Danny's. I can't remember.
It was fun though, nonetheless. Didn't you cast at a big carp or a big buffalo or something out there?
No, brother. I hooked a massive carp. I hooked dude. I was planning on bringing 2 rods with me that day, a 3-weight, and I think it might have been a 6-weight. And I don't know, or was it 5-weight? I can't remember. Doesn't matter, anyways. But I left the bigger rod in the truck, so I only had the 3-weight with me. I was like, it's cool, whatever. So it was working out just fine. Like because we weren't catching anything super crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't have any issues. And then, it was like towards the end of the float, and I see these 2 big things in the water. I thought they were rocks, but they were carp. And I don't know why, bro. I don't know what was going through my head that I thought it was a good idea to try and cast at this fish. I think it was probably just probably the idea that, I've never hooked a carp. There's no way, because I've heard of how spooky carp can be, that they were going to actually eat. So I was like, I'll just go for it, see what happens. Not thinking anything, just thinking that it might scare them at best. And so I just flipped over my little carpet bomb. It was an olive carpet bomb. And I just did a little drag and drop. And then I see that thing open its mouth and suck the fly in. And so I set the hook. And dude, he took off, man. I mean, it all happened so fast. As soon as I hook him, it seemed like I lost it. Like he just took off and popped my line instantaneous. It was by far the biggest carp I've ever hooked in my life.
That's insane.
On a 3-weight. Actually, the 2 common carp that I've hooked on the fly rod have been on that 3-weight. That same 3-weight. Man. So it's I guess my lucky carp stick, but unfortunately it's also my lucky carp stick. So it's I still haven't caught a common carp, dude. I still have not caught a common carp. I've caught a freaking koi fish of all things, but not caught a common carp. Caught grass carp, but not a common carp.
Well, maybe it's safe to say that 3-weight is just leaves you a little undermanned for the task at hand.
Oh, dude, it's like trying to shoot a moose with a 22.
So, dude, we got to get you on a carp in 2025.
Brother, that was my last. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was my resolution last year too, and I failed.
It was my resolution last
So-
year, and I was pretty successful in it. So
Yeah, dude. 24 was a pretty good year for you in carp.
24 was a pretty carpy year for me. And then that freaking koi I caught was like a mirror koi. Yeah, I still want to get that freaking black koi that's out there sometime this year. I'll probably be moving here soon, so I may just have to come and visit this spot and try in the springtime. But yeah, dude, it's that I don't know what it is. It might be a butterfly koi. I'm not sure. It has this real wispy tail, but it's pure black and then just has white on the tail. It's so cool looking.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I've seen it 2 years, so I'm hoping I can see it again this year and try to target it. Every time
Nice.
I saw it previously, I wasn't fishing. So
Nice.
yeah.
And from where I'm at, I'm not too far from what I've been told to be some pretty good carp waters. So I might have to do some exploring and see if I can find some. So before moving to where I'm at now, I would come and visit whenever we would do field work when I was in grad school. And when on the rare occasion that we had time to actually explore and have a little fun, we would go fishing to some local spots, and I think I've only ever seen 1 or 2 carp. But again, I always had a light rod, like a 308 or my little 408, not quite up to the task. And so I still have that rod that I built specifically for carp. So I'm going to try and do a little bit more stumping around and see if I can find some. I've been told that there's a stretch of the river near here because there's a dam, and I've heard that at the bottom of the dam there are carp. I've never seen one, but I don't know if they hang out just in deeper water or what. But
yeah,
I'm hoping if I can just find the right place, be at the right place at the right time, I might get a little lucky. So we'll see.
Well, let's hope it happens for you in 25.
Man, I sure hope so. We'll see.
Yes, sir. Well, we're coming up on time for the episode. So for those of y'all that are listening to the end, we really appreciate y'all. And we hope y'all have an amazing outdoor recreation in 2025, a great year for outdoor recreation. And I'm hoping that we can get Jose on a carp. So, but for those of y'all that are listening and watching to the end, we appreciate you. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.
This has been Wildlife Outdoors. Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook at Wildlife Outdoors and on Instagram at wild.life.outdoors. Let's go live life on the wild side.